Fallout mounting after certain liberals and the mainstream media came crashing down on President Trump as reports circulated that his administration lost 1,500 migrant children. Now, this headline, by the way, coupled with a picture of two children locked in a steel cage. However, evidence came to light that this image was 4 years old and had no connection to the Trump administration. The president tweeting about this earlier today. Democrats mistakenly tweet 2014 pictures from Obama's term showing children from the border in steel cages. They thought it was a recent picture in order to make us look bad. But backfires. Dems must agree to wall and new border protections for good of the country. Bipartisan bill. Here to discuss, Kayleigh McEnany, RNC spokeswoman, Enrique Arbelaez, CIEN Plus, a co-founder and chief innovation officer. Kayleigh, let me start with you. First on this, we see it almost weekly, sometimes daily, this urge to portray President Trump in such a negative light. And then when it turns out that these children, by the way, an awful photograph of children in a steel cage happened under the Obama administration, the news sort of faded from full view.
Yeah, Charles, the fake news is pervasive, and it's really sick because you see elements of the mainstream media that are tripping over themselves to paint this administration in a negative light. And in doing so, they're caught up in their own stories. And what they find are they're putting up photos, as you said, of immigrants from the Obama era that have no bearing on the policies of this administration, but nevertheless, they're putting them out there as if they're emblematic of what's going on here. And likewise with the so-called missing migrants. There's a lot more to that story, too. But nevertheless, the media puts it out there because they are desperate to make this administration look as negative as possible.
Enrique, I mean, we've seen this more over and over again, and we've seen a lot of retractions from the media, but we've also seen reactions. We've seen the market swoon on some of these false reports, and we've seen other things happen. How does this help when they go so far into pushing this as a Trump narrative, rather than saying, hey, it's a bad situation no matter who the president is? I think if they want to play a role with bipartisan solutions, maybe this would be a new tactic.
I think you're right. At the end of the day, this is bigger than any party system. At the end of the day, it's a humanitarian crisis, even more so than an immigration issue. Look, there are over 400,000 children right now in foster care, and not even one should ever go missing. And right now, it should be looked at as how do we make sure that children are taken care of.
Are you concerned, and by the way, one of the headlines was a USA Today headline last week, the feds lost 1,475 migrant children. Enrique, some of that is, we'll come to find, I don't think that they were necessarily lost per se, but this gets back to the issue of how do we deal with our immigration issue? How do we deal with illegal immigration? And if someone is indeed breaking a law, Americans are saying, hey, if a husband and wife robbed a bank, they wouldn't allow their children to serve the bank term, the prison term with them.
At the end of the day, you got to think about there is laws and immigration laws that we all know they're broken. We've been talking about it for a long time. But there are even a bigger law, and it's a human law. And at the end of the day is, should children ever be put in the face of danger and peril? And what are those circumstances? So let the crime, fit the punishment. But at the end of the day, children should never be put in peril.
So, Kayleigh, shouldn't this actually spark a greater sense of urgency on Washington, D.C. to get this resolved once and for all? I mean, I feel like some things have been offered. I'm always shocked that they're sort of dismissed almost out of hand these days.
They are, especially if we want to talk about kids who came here and are now, most of them adults, the DACA issue. Democrats have had their opportunity to come to the table and solve that, and they haven't. And instead of really sitting down and working with this president, instead they're playing into this media narrative, and this missing children story is emblematic of that. These children are not missing. They were not in HHS. They were not in federal government custody. They were in the custody of their family members, and there's a reporting requirement where the federal government must reach out to the family members and keep track of the kids and see where they are. And some of those relatives did not report back where the kids were. That's because they moved or any myriad of other reasons why they wouldn't report back. So that was a fake news story. And if Democrats really want to help kids, DACA kids, come to the table because this president has put a proposal on the table.
And to that point, Enrique, what we saw Congressman Cuellar say, hey, listen, I'll give up the wall for smart immigration and particularly a fix with DACA. When does the pressure ever get on the Democrats to say to make some sort of compromise here, particularly since they lost? They don't have the White House, and something has been offered. Do you think they'll ever sort of say, okay, we can meet in the middle somewhere?
It has to. It's just been too long, and we continue to. At the end of the day, something needs to happen. The immigration system is broken. We all agree on the principles of children, and even on DACA, I think the public opinion wants to see that being fixed as well. So at the end of the day, the parties need to take the politics aside and just come to the table and come to solutions.
Right.
The challenge is, obviously, at the end of the day, we have to take it bigger, and there are humanitarian reasons behind all of this,
right,
outside of political parties.
All right, well, we'll see if that happens. I think we're all sort of rooting for it. Thank you both very much.
Thanks, Charles.